A wedding saga filled with chaos, emotional turmoil, and unexpected lessons. Can friendship survive the bridezilla's demands? Discover how this bridesmaid navigates the storm. The Bride's Dilemma. I am a bridesmaid in my friend's wedding, which is happening this June. My friend, bless her heart, is currently juggling university and prepping for a medical school interview, so the stress levels are through the roof. Ever since she got engaged last summer, she's been in a whirlwind of indecision about her wedding colors. The other bridesmaids and I suggested she order some swatches from Azazi to help her visualize a color palette, but Christmas came and went and she was still lost in a sea of options. Then she decided to take matters into her own hands and ordered $400 worth of flowers from Temu, flowers she's not even using anymore. I mean, we all know that planning a wedding is no small feat, but throwing money around like that? I couldn't help but think that maybe she should have put a bit more thought into it first. Now that she finally picked her flowers, it was time to settle on bridesmaid dress colors. She initially had her heart set on dresses from Park and Fifth, which she loved, but her sister, the maid of honor, voiced her disdain for the form-fitting silk styles. Fast forward to this past weekend, and I received a text from her showcasing the colors she had tentatively chosen: dusty lilac, agave, yellow, blue, and peach. When she asked which color I preferred, I honestly told her I'd be happy in any color she wanted. But apparently that wasn't the answer she was looking for. "I need your opinion," she insisted. I tried to assure her that any color would be fine, so she settled on purple for me. Yet confusion reigned when she asked me to send her my favorite dresses from a selection I liked, only to express that my favorite wasn't hers. I was left scratching my head, wondering if I was supposed to have a favorite that aligned with hers. It felt like I was walking on eggshells. Just when I thought we were making progress, she had a meltdown about how none of the colors looked good with her flowers. I tried to help her simplify things, suggesting she should stick with agave, as it paired beautifully with navy. But the moment I said that, she flipped the script, declaring her decision without any room for discussion. At that point, I was left with a sinking feeling. Was she asking for feedback or just validation? It felt like a lose-lose situation. I decided to express my thoughts, clarifying that if she truly wanted us to feel comfortable, she couldn't dictate the dress styles and colors while pretending to be open to our opinions. As I tried to explain this, her fiancé texted one of the other bridesmaids, suggesting I was being rude for not liking her favorite dress. I felt blindsided. As the tension escalated, I realized that I had to tread carefully. This was her wedding after all. But how could I continue being supportive when every bit of advice I shared seemed to ignite a firestorm? Part 2. The Bachelorette Party Fiasco. Fast forward to May 12, 2025, and the much-anticipated bachelorette party weekend had arrived. I, along with the other bridesmaids, felt a mix of excitement and trepidation, knowing how unpredictable she could be. We gathered at her condo that Friday night to kick things off at Activate, a local spot for some fun and games. Afterward, we had snacks and drinks, followed by a lingerie shower for the bride. It was all laughs and giggles until Saturday arrived, which turned out to be a different story. We started with brunch and things seemed to be going smoothly until we hopped on a pedal pub. Our bride, in her attempts to have the time of her life, ordered 2 punch bowls, 1 margarita and 1 mojito. Let's just say she didn't hold back, and by the end of our first stop, she was already feeling the effects of her indulgence. With 2 more stops ahead, things quickly spiraled. She kept ordering more drinks, and some of the girls opted for a sangria tower, which they despised but felt obligated to consume. As we made our way back to the vehicles, the bride's condition worsened. The poor girl started to get sick, and we had to pull over multiple times on the way back. When we finally made it home, she collapsed on the bathroom floor, and I found myself running out to get her electrolytes, feeling part caretaker and party pooper. After a lengthy delay, we finally prepared to head out for dinner at a Mexican restaurant. However, our bride was still feeling the after effects and refused to eat. By the time we reached the venue, tensions were high and everyone was growing impatient. The bride wanted to dance, but she held back, waiting until nearly midnight, which had everyone baffled. We had come all this way just for her to stand still? Her sister, the maid of honor, finally had to intervene and tell her that if she wasn't going to dance, we were leaving. At that moment, I felt the weight of the weekend collapsing. How could we have planned something so fun only for it to turn into a nightmare? The bride's relentless complaints and refusal to engage made it feel as though we wasted our time for a celebration meant for her. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were counting down the days until this wedding was finally behind us. Part 3. The Wedding from Hell. Then came June 19, 2025, the wedding day. The groom reached out to the bridal party with a text that resonated with a sense of urgency. Apparently, there had been communication breakdowns, and everyone was scrambling to ensure the day went off without a hitch. I couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety. After the bachelorette's chaos, I was bracing myself for whatever might unfold. The day kicked off early, with hair appointments set for 8 a.m. The bride's parents didn't believe in air conditioning, which made the sweltering heat almost unbearable as we all huddled together trying to look presentable. I felt like I was melting, and I could see the bride was already on edge. It was clear that she had a million things on her mind. As the morning progressed, the bride was critical of everyone's makeup, except mine, which she claimed looked professional. I tried to keep my spirits up, but it was hard to ignore the underlying tension. She was behind on her vows and kept rushing around, trying to find everything at the last minute. Just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, the groom began calling her repeatedly, not knowing where things were at the ceremony location. The panic was palpable. Things took a turn for the worse when we learned that important items, like the guest book, had gone missing. I found myself racing to help locate it as the minutes ticked away. The situation escalated when we realized that the bride had unexpectedly started her period, leaving bloodstains on her dress just before the ceremony. I couldn't help but chuckle at the irony, as I had just had mine the week before. Chaos ensued as we scrambled to fix her dress, using double-sided tape and safety pins to cover the stains. The groom, frustrated and overwhelmed, began barking orders at me for safety pins. I had no idea where they were. I was feeling a mix of frustration and disbelief at how unprepared we all were. At this point, I was just thankful that nobody had fainted from the heat or the stress. But as we finally made it to the ceremony, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were all on the verge of a breakdown. Part 4. The Aftermath. The wedding ceremony commenced, and I was relieved to see the bride and groom finally exchanging vows. It was a beautiful moment, but I could sense that the bride was still frazzled. After the ceremony, we were all supposed to be treated to a celebratory meal. However, the bride and groom neglected to provide us with any food, leaving us hungry and irritable after hours of running around in the heat. It was a dessert wedding, so all we had were sugary treats, and I could see the frustration on everyone's faces. As the night wore on, I felt like we were all just going through the motions. The bride was more focused on minor details than enjoying her day. She started yelling about the arrangement of bottles on tables, completely missing the bigger picture. It was disheartening to witness what should have been a joyful celebration unfold into a series of minor disasters. Finally, we managed to get through the night, staying until 3 a.m. to keep the couple happy, but I couldn't help but wonder how this would affect our friendships moving forward. The bride had shown little appreciation for our efforts, and I felt like we were all just pawns in her chaotic game. Part 5. A New Perspective. In the days that followed, I began reflecting on the entire experience. The bride had her fair share of stress, but it was becoming increasingly evident that her behavior was becoming a concern. She was set on continuing her education while being married, essentially splitting her time between school and her husband. I couldn't help but question how that would work out in the long run. During a candid conversation with one of the bridesmaids, we voiced our frustrations about how the bride treated us throughout the process. We were there to support her, yet she seemed to take our presence for granted. It felt like we were all just waiting for the wedding to be over, yet I questioned how I would handle my own wedding now that I had experienced the chaos of hers. I was determined to approach my own wedding with kindness and consideration for my bridal party. I didn't want to repeat the mistakes of our bride. As I prepared for my own special day, I made it a point to communicate openly with everyone involved, ensuring that no one would feel the pressure or neglect that we experienced during her wedding. Part 6. A Satisfying Conclusion. Finally, the day of my wedding arrived, and I was both excited and nervous. I wanted to make sure that everyone felt appreciated and valued. I learned from the Bridezilla saga and was determined to create a day filled with joy rather than chaos. As I stood at the altar, surrounded by my supportive friends and family, I felt a sense of gratitude wash over me. I took a moment to reflect on everything that had unfolded with my friend. I knew we wouldn't be able to go back to the way things were, but I hoped that we could find a way to move forward. In the end, I reached out to the bride after my wedding, hoping we could have an open conversation about our experiences. To my surprise, she was willing to listen. We talked about our feelings and frustrations, and she admitted that the stress of planning her wedding had taken a toll on her. I realized that perhaps we were both victims of circumstance, navigating the complex emotions that come with such significant life changes. While it may not have resolved everything, it felt good to finally share our perspectives. I left the conversation feeling lighter and ready to embrace the future with open arms, knowing that true friendships endure even the toughest trials. The wedding saga may have been chaotic, but it ultimately taught me invaluable lessons about compassion and understanding.